Hello everyone. So in this particular video lecture we will talk about female reproductive system and it is a part 1. So जैसे कि हमने मेल रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम किया था इसी तरीके से जो हम लोग फीमेल रिप्रोडक्टिव सिस्टम करेंगे. And the first thing we should be aware of about the any reproductive system is that what do we mean by sex organ. So let us start with the primary and the secondary sex organ first of all. So the first thing we have to study is that what is a primary sex organ in case of a female. Or before we come to exactly the organ, we should be aware of the definition. So those organs which produce gametes, right, as well as the sex hormone, so they comes in the category of primary sex organ. So which produces gametes and sex hormone. Fine. So what is a gamete in case of female? It is egg, but it is released in a stage of oocyte. So we'll write here that it is secondary oocyte which is released during ovulation, but the gamete is called as egg, right? The gamete is ooted or it is called as egg or ovum. But we should know that in which stage the gamete comes out. So the gamete comes out in a stage of secondary oocyte. And what are the sex hormone in case of female? So यहाँ पर जो है दो sex hormone है. First is progesterone. The first is progesterone, and the second one is estrogen. So these are the two sex organ, right? And what is the primary sex organ, by the way, in case of female? Then it is ovaries. So a pair of ovaries there, that is ovaries. We'll talk about the internal structure of the ovaries as well. Coming to the secondary sex organ, so we know that secondary sex organ are those which help in the storage as well as in the transportation of the gametes. So secondary sex organ. So which help in storage, which helps in storage and transportation of gametes. So that is something which is secondary sex organ. So let us make a list of all those secondary sex organ which are in case of female. So we'll talk about fallopian tube, that is also called as oviduct. Then we have uterus, cervix, vagina, and there are accessory glands as well. So in case of female there are two accessory glands. One is called as bulbovestibular, that is Bartholin gland, and mammary gland. So हम इनके structures देखेंगे, इनके functions देखेंगे. So these are primary and secondary sex organ in case of female. So that's something which we should be aware of, right? So I have written on the above slide, I'm sure that was hide by my picture. So that is ooted, egg or ovum, right? So that is about the primary sex organ and the secondary sex organ. So before now, talk about the ovary, or before starting with the structure of ovary or the uterus or fallopian tube, let us see the structure. So what we will do, we will first study about the female reproductive system. Then we'll see the external genital in case of female. So let us now talk about it. So this is the picture. You can see that is a representation of the female reproductive system, what you can see. So let us now label the different part and let us talk about each and every part. So let us start with the fallopian tube. So this entire, let me write it here. This is called as oviduct or fallopian tube. Fallopian tube. So this entire is called as oviduct or fallopian tube. Now in this oviduct and fallopian tube, अब यहाँ कुछ अलग-अलग parts हैं जो हमें discuss करने हैं. So I'm sure that you can observe these finger-like structure, that's called as fimbriae. ये जो finger-like structure है, suppose this is the complete hand is representing the oviduct. Then this part, the first part, which is a finger-like structure, that is fimbria. Then we have this a little wider part that is called as infundibulum. Above to that we have ampulla, and then this last part which is connected to the uterus, this is called as ampulla. So it is called as ampulla. The one and a very important thing you should be aware about the fimbria is that, देखिए हम जब बात करेंगे कि ओवरी में से ओव्यूलेशन होता है, ओवरी में से जो है ओटिड निकलता है, we'll talk about it, right? So से मान लीजिए कि ओवरी है, यहाँ से जब ओव्यूलेशन होगा, so ये fimbria एक स्वीपिंग मूवमेंट यहाँ पर जो है करती है. So fimbria shows a sweeping movement around the ovary. Otherwise जो oocyte यहाँ से रिलीज होगा वो फॉल ऑफ हो सकता है in the abdominal cavity, right? So ये fimbria क्या करेंगे, इस fimbria जो है ये सारा oocyte को जो है ना कैप्चर कर लेगी. It is similar. It happens in a similar way. Say you have a glass and you are stirring that glass with the help of a spoon. So एक tornado type का जो है एक funnel shape जो है structure बनता है. Similar kind of internal succession is taken up by, is shown by this fimbria. So that is important, right everyone? So ये यहाँ पे important है. इसके अलावा अब हम बात करेंगे कि जो fimbria है, or rather the fallopian tube, they are lined by ciliated, columnar ciliated epithelium. So यहाँ cilia present है. So all these are cilia. And what is the function of these cilia we'll talk about. तो ये cilia जो है, ये जो oocyte आएगा उसको आगे propel करेंगी toward the ampulla junction. And if fertilization takes place, then ये जो है uterus की तरफ जाएगा. Egg, of course. And after fertilization, that is called as zygote. So this is cilia. And यहाँ पर जो cell है, that is columnar ciliated epithelium. Columnar ciliated epithelium. So this is something which you should aware of, right? Okay, now these are ovaries, or rather this is ovary. ये जो part है ये ovary है. Ovary, अब location की बात करें तो जो female reproductive system है वो pelvic region में located है, in the lower abdominal cavity. ओवरी दो तरीके से अटैच होती है. फर्स्ट, ओवरी आर अटैच्ड विद द हेल्प ऑफ ओवेरियन लिगामेंट. सो लेट मी लेबल दिस पार्ट हियर. दिस इज एक्चुअली ओवेरियन लिगामेंट. So this is the ovarian ligament and it helps in the connection of the ovary with the help of uterine wall. तो यूट्रस से जो है कनेक्ट होता है. इसके अलावा there are some membranous fold as well. So let me draw. Right? अब देखिए ये membranous fold इधर है. Let me draw somewhere here or let me take some other color. So ये कुछ membranous fold है actually. अब ये fallopian tube से अटैच नहीं है. I know that कि they are seems to attach like a fallopian tube. ये fallopian tube से अटैच नहीं है. Think like that कि अब इसके पीछे की तरफ, I mean to say ovary के पीछे की तरफ abdominal wall भी तो है. So these are actually mesovarium. So that is something which you should aware of. That is mesovarium. ये जो पार्ट है ये मेसोवेरियम पार्ट है. तो ये वाली बात जो है हमें यहां ध्यान रखनी है, राइट? ओके, सो नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट यूट्रस. सो दिस कंप्लीट पार्ट इज कॉल्ड एज द बॉडी ऑफ द यूट्रस एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड यूट्राइन फंडस. दिस इज कॉल्ड यूट्राइन फंडस एंड दिस इज कॉल्ड द बॉडी ऑफ द यूट्रस. और यहां पर 3 लेयर होती हैं. यूट्रस हैज 3 लेयर्स. सो व्हाट आर द 3 लेयर्स ऑफ द यूट्रस? लेट्स टॉक अबाउट. सो द आउटर वन इज perimetrium. Outer one is the perimetrium, and then inner to the perimetrium there is a muscular wall, and that muscular wall is called as myometrium. This is made up of muscles, and the innermost layer, it is a highly vascular. I'm labeling it here. It is highly vascular and glandular. This is called as endometrium. This is the innermost layer. This is called endometrium, right? तो ये वाली बात जो है हमें यहाँ पर ध्यान रखनी है. In the endometrium implantation takes place, so we'll talk about it. Now, अब नीचे की तरफ आते हैं तो देखिए ये जो region है, this region, this is called as cervix, and lower to that, this is called as vagina, and then there is an opening of the vagina that is called as actually vulva, or rather vaginal orifice. So this is called as vaginal orifice. अब इस वजाइनल ऑरिफाइस को ही हम लोग जो है वल्वा भी बोल देते हैं, तो दैट इज एक्सटर्नल जेनाइटल। अब जैसे हमने मेल के केस में एक्सटर्नल जेनाइटल पेनिस के बारे में डिस्कस किया था, सिमिलरली फीमेल में जो एक्सटर्नल जेनाइटल है, कहने का मतलब व्हाटएवर इज विजिबल दैट इज कॉल्ड एज वल्वा। राइट एवरीवन, वन मोर थिंग, अब देखिए हम वल्वा का जो है सेपरेट स्ट्रक्चर डिस्कस करेंगे, लेकिन लेट मी टेल यू वन थिंग एंड देन जो है हम वहां और डिटेल लेंगे। This vagina is covered by a thin membranous structure that is called as hymen. So this thin membranous structure which covers the vagina, this is called hymen. Hymen is intact in virgin female. So this is called hymen, right? अब देखिए एक और चीज हम समझते हैं, cervix opens into uterus. So मान लीजिए cervix है अभी uterus की तरफ ऊपर की तरफ खुलेगा and toward the inner side it opens into the vagina. So this upper opening is called as internal os. So I am writing internal os, IOS, and this external opening is called as external os. So just simple है कि cervix जो है अंदर की तरफ यूट्रस की तरफ खुल रहा है and बाहर की तरफ वजाइना की तरफ खुल रहा है. So the inner opening is called as internal os and the outer opening is called as external os. So this is something which is the female reproductive system. Let us now write about few words about fallopian tube and the uterus, and in the next lecture we will see about the external genital of the female. So let us talk about the fallopian tube first. So fallopian tube are also called as oviduct, and it is lined by ciliated epithelial tissue. So it is lined by ciliated epithelial tissue and it has three parts. How many parts it has? It has three parts. So what are the three parts actually our ovary has? So it has infundibulum, ampulla and isthmus. अब देखिए एक चीज हमें समझनी है दैट फर्टिलाइजेशन भी जो है ओविडक्ट में होता है. सो फर्टिलाइजेशन टेक्स प्लेस इन ampulla isthmus junction. In ampulla isthmus junction of fallopian tube. So ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. Infundibulum का anterior part ही fimbri है, and if I talk about the function of the fimbri, then it helps in the collection of egg. So it helps in the collection of egg. So that is something which is very, very important. If I talk about uterus, so what all the thing we should be aware of about the uterus is the layers. So if we talk about the layers, then it has three layers. The outer is called as perimetrium. The middle is called as myometrium and the inner is called as endometrium. The myometrium is muscular layer and this endometrium, it is highly vascular and glandular. And in the endometrium, and this is important that this is the endometrium which undergoes cyclic change. So, यही endometrium है जो every month जिसके अंदर कुछ cyclic change होते हैं, तो it undergoes cyclic changes. And we'll talk about it that what are the roles of the hormones and so in the menstruation, right? So ध्यान रखेंगे, and endometrium में ही implantation होता है. It is a layer in which implantation occur. Okay everyone, so I hope I made myself clear up to this point. Now in the next lecture we will see the external structure or rather external genital of the female. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.